Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Public Affairs on Peach. Today, we are taking a look at the recent mandate from the Obama administration that requires all insurance companies to cover contraceptive pills and other birth control services. Now, as Congress began to look at the issue, a major question emerged. Whose decision is it, and where are all the women?
The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
They didn't know that when they came to Capitol Hill to express concerns about religious freedom, that it would be a picture worth thousands and thousands of words.
When I look at this panel, I don't see one single woman.
It was a refrain taken up by a number of senators, each posing next to a picture of the male religious leaders testifying.
One woman is seated at this table.
Just when I thought I couldn't be any more dumbfounded by the debate around here, in terms of denying access to women's health services, there was a hearing yesterday, and all of the witnesses were male.
It was just the latest go-around in the increasingly intense battle over President Obama's policy, forcing religious organizations to have their insurance companies provide birth control, morning after pills, and other contraception services to their employees. The female lawmakers say the issue is women's rights. Religious leaders don't see it that way.
The administration impedes religious liberty by unilaterally redefining what it means to be religious.
The Catholic League's Bill Donahue doesn't deny that women have a say in contraception.
But the first and foremost issue on the table is the First Amendment right to religious liberty. That trumps every other issue.
Here's his analogy.
If the government came in and tried to shut down your broadcast today, would that be a media issue? It would. Would it be a political issue? It would. But what would it really be? It'd be a First Amendment issue of freedom of speech.
When will they get this simple, non-debatable fact? The power to decide whether or not a woman will use contraception lies with her, not her boss.
And that is Senator Kirsten Gillibrand from New York. Now, when a female finally did testify in front of Congress, she found herself the target of attacks from conservative talk show host Rush Limbaugh. The Georgetown University law student talked about the cost of birth control. Meanwhile, Limbaugh went on the air and called the student a slut. Listen to this.
What does it say about the college co-ed Susan Fluke, who goes before a congressional committee and essentially says that she must be paid to have sex? What does that make her? It makes her a slut, right? Makes her a prostitute.
Well, Limbaugh suggested that Sandra Fluke's support of contraception coverage was an attempt to force Americans to pay for her sexual activities. He has since apologized in a statement released on his website, saying he chose the wrong words. Mindy Smith is a family attorney here in Atlanta. She is also a pre-med major in college, or you were. Mindy, you're going to have a unique perspective on this with your background. It's always good to have you back on the show.
Thank you, Brandon. It's good to be here.
All right. We just heard Rush Limbaugh say it. I think everyone, even conservatives, took offense to the language he used. What was your reaction when this young law student went before Congress to testify, and that's the reaction she got?
I admire Sandra Fluke for standing up and going before this panel and giving her thoughts about this particular issue. I admire her courage. She probably knew on some level that she was going to get backlash. As far as Rush Limbaugh, well, I admire his candor, his ability to break down very serious political subjects. Name calling is never permissible. She's certainly not a slut. She's certainly not asking Congress that she be paid to have sex. She was just testifying and asking Congress to please make sure that as a woman, she gets access to certain medications that insurance plans at non-religious affiliated institutions would offer their insurees.
You know, I think when all of this news broke and you had religious leaders, many of them Catholics, coming out and saying, hey, listen, we don't believe in birth control. So why then should we be forced as employers to give you and pay for contraceptive?
Well, Brandon, the issue is much deeper than that. Not only is it a religious liberties issue or a government accountability issue, it's a woman's health issue. You know, as a pre-med major and as someone who contemplated going to medical school and as a woman, I know that oral contraceptives are not just used for birth control. They're used for ovarian cyst, menstrual irregularities, menstrual cramps, hormonal supplements, Some women have to be on this medication for medical reasons other than to have sex. So what is an institution going to do? If they have a female employee working for them and the doctor recommends that she go on an oral contraceptive, is she going to have to report why she's using the oral contraceptive? I mean, it also becomes a privacy issue. This is an issue between a woman and her doctor. If the doctor feels like this particular patient needs to be on this medication, it's not the Catholic Church's business why this particular person should be on this medication. It's preventative. I'm sure these plans cover cholesterol-lowering drugs, you know, an array of preventative drugs, and that's the point of having insurance. It's preventative. It covers preventative medicine, and most people would argue that getting pregnant and carrying a child to term is much more, there are much more risks associated with that than not being pregnant. So, you know, if those particular religious individuals don't believe in birth control, they certainly have the platform to advocate that in the church, in public, in periodicals, online, but to extend it to an insurance policy with someone that is working for them and to say, we're not going to cover this. And let me correct something. The Obama plan is not mandating that it cover it for free. It's just offering it as an option. Insurance, as we all know, is kind of a shared cost between the employer and the insured. So it's not necessarily true that the insurance would be covering the birth control free of cost to the insured. It just means it offers this and offers a level of plan where this person can, this woman can opt in and choose to take the birth control.
You know, I was smiling and laughing here because you do make a very good argument, because I think that a lot of conservatives out there, I think when this issue came, and we all know politics and we all know the game of politics.
And this is an election year.
And this is
a hot button issue. 58% of the voters are women.
Issue, right? If they claim, and I think that they've successfully done, the conservatives, I think they've successfully said women's contraceptives, immediately it's because you want to have sex.
Exactly.
Rather than looking at some of the other health issues. Because if you start to ask around to a lot of women, there are a lot of women out there who say, I'm on birth control, and no, it's not because I'm not trying to get pregnant.
Exactly. And some women, Brandon, have to be on oral contraceptives to preserve their future fertility. Say a woman with endometriosis will have to be on birth control to preserve her future fertility so that the endometriosis doesn't get out of control. So there's a wide array of reasons a woman might take an oral contraceptive that are not related to having sex. And even so, it's an issue between the woman and her doctor. You know, the doctor feels like this patient needs to be on this medication. When, you know, a doctor prescribes, you know, Viagra or a cholesterol-lowering drug or any other type of drug, that's the doctor's professional opinion that this patient should be on this medication. And for any entity to try to get involved and want to know why this person is taking this medication when it is a medication.
That's why we have HIPAA laws.
Exactly.
And you know, and I wanted to talk to you as well. All of this was kind of coming at a time when we had the Susan G. Komen Foundation and the Planned Parenthood, you know, obviously organization, kind of clashing it head to head. Because I believe Karen Handel, you know, was over at the Susan G. Komen Foundation. She was running for governor here in Georgia. She wanted to get rid of Planned Parenthood funding here in the state of Georgia. And I think that really kind of ignited a controversy and a dialogue in this country about a woman's access to health care.
Exactly, it did. And the Susan G. Komen Foundation had to kind of reverse their policy on that and take a step back. But so to you, is this even a conservative or a liberal issue?
No.
Or,
you know, because I think a lot of people want to take a woman's right to choose, and they want to take contraceptive pills. They want to take the whole idea of birth control and make it a conservative versus liberal issue.
Exactly, and it's not. And another issue is, you know, I have to ask some of these religious organizations, and not necessarily just a Catholic affiliated organization, but other religious organizations. Would it be okay with you if you allowed a female on your insurance plan to have birth control if she were married? So where does the intrusion stop? It's a medication. A doctor feels like his patient should be on this medication. She shouldn't have to disclose why. He shouldn't have to disclose why. If other insurance policies across the country are mandated to provide contraceptive coverage, which they are, then employees of religious affiliated institutions should be availed that same opportunity.
All right, Minnie Smith, always a pleasure to have you here.
You,
you make a great argument, one that I've been watching a lot of network cable newscasts, and to bring in the health aspects that birth control brings to women besides just preventative, from having to give birth. So I really appreciate that side of it. All right, when we come back, we're going to be talking to Atlanta's Catholic Diocese as they weigh in why they're so opposed to the mandate and what they're planning to do to fight it. Stay with us.